Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I had this new idea to do a series on news in China, South Korea, North Korea and Japan, but through the lens of state and social media of the other countries. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First topic of discussion is Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru. He visited South Korea and he held bilateral talks with the South Korean President Lee Jae-myung on the 30th of September. Now, on the one side, you had the Japanese media. They focused on the improving bilateral relation and the so-called shuttle diplomacy between the two state leaders. Shuttle diplomacy is a form of diplomacy on state leader level. They also met last month as well in Tokyo, and so they're building upon this previous encounter. Also, at the same time, this is the last overseas trip for the Japanese Prime Minister, Ishiba Shigeru, as he will step down in a few days. So that was the focus of the Japanese media. And Korean media, on their part, they talked about the shuttle diplomacy on one side, but they went more into detail on topics that were discussed during the bilateral meeting. And one of these topics that were discussed and actually were set up was a consultation group on social matters. Japan and South Korea, they're grappling with the same kind of problems, such as a declining population, low childbirth, and even things like suicide rates, how to stop these and prevent these from happening. These are all topics that they will discuss in this consultation group, and I, for one, am very looking forward to what's going to be discussed and what the results will be of this group. They talked about other topics as well, but I think this social problem consultation group was the more interesting part. Next topic is North Korea. There are quite a lot of interesting things. First of all, Chinese media, they report on the Chinese Foreign Minister Che Sun-hui, who was in Beijing on the 28th of September. Just a few days before the visit of Japanese Prime Minister to South Korea. Now, this is interesting because, Kim Jong-un, the Korean Supreme State Leader, he just went on a visit to Beijing a few weeks ago for the Victory Parade, and so this is like a follow-up meeting and visit to China, which is interesting because it's been 6 years since Kim Jong-un was in China the last time, and I think when he was there for the Victory Parade in Beijing, he must have felt that there's a good opportunity to deepen and strengthen the relationship with China, and that's why the foreign minister is there now. Did they talk about a lot of interesting new topics? No, they just said they would continue strengthening bilateral relations, and that they would build upon the foundation laid between the meeting between Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un a few weeks ago. Maybe a bit more interesting, the South Korean media report on the delegation of North Korea that went to the UN. There was the General Assembly a few days ago in New York, and they sent a delegation for the very first time in 7 years. Now, funnily enough, 7 years ago, that was also when Mr. Donald Trump was president. He allowed them to drive directly off the runway of the airport. So they had their private own way of transport. But this time, apparently they didn't allow the North Korean delegation to exit the airport in a more, let's say, less conventional way. But this time they had to arrive in the same arrival hall as the general public. And so, of course, the press swarmed around. There was the North Korean delegation got into a wrong cab. They got out and they transferred to the embassy car. I mean, it was chaos, and you can see it in this video as well. There was a little bit of chaos. Apparently, even a reporter was knocked over, and so they protested violently. Japanese media don't really comment about it that much, but they only see the meeting between the North Korean foreign minister and the Chinese prime minister and the foreign minister as a jab, as a means or method to restrain the US. But for the rest, there are no big reports on that topic. Next topic, let's see where we dive into now. Mm, yeah, these topics are a bit all over the place, but I'll start with on Chinese social media on Weibo. They posted a video of a South Korean diplomat turned politician who stated that, South Korea and the US, they have a tariff deal, but one of these conditions of the tariff deal is that the South Korea had to pay $350 billion to the US for like investments. And so the video is about this a diplomat turned politician, Mr. Lee Sung-yak, who said that actually South Korea cannot provide these $350 billion dollars in cash upfront, and so that the commitment had to be structured through loans, guarantees, and equity for U.S. projects. So yeah, of course, Chinese netizens chimed in and saying that was kind of like a loss of face. But that's one thing. Another thing is, Japanese media, they talked about China a little bit as well. First of all, they reported on the fourth plenum of the 20th Party Congress in China. So China has a party congress every 5 years. And so in this party congress, they basically elect and select the members of the Central Committee, who are like the highest ranking political body in China. Every year they hold a plenum, and the agenda of the plenum is kind of fixed. And so the fourth plenum usually talks about economic matters, and this will be very interesting because it's going to take place in the end of October somewhere ish, and they will discuss China's next 5-year plan, which is the economic blueprint that will likely, as reporters say, will likely emphasize income and gross domestic product growth, the upgrading of industry, and technological innovation. Next topic is more society-wise, but Japanese media also report on a trend in China between the Gen Z, young people in China who just started working. We've maybe heard about this lying flat culture in China, which is kind of like this phenomenon in Chinese society, where the younger generation is like sick of competition and fighting to survive in like a work environment. And so they have made up this kind of like new concept of unripe or green bananas, which is funnily enough, if you say green banana in Chinese, it's the same pronunciation as anxiety, which is all 焦虑. So it means green banana and anxiety. And so young people in China on the workplace, they are growing ripe or unripe bananas at the workplace to kind of like mock this idea of competition and like fighting and working late and everything. And so yeah, it's just a funny thing. And so they also put photos on their desks that are elaborately decorated with like mascots or houseplants. I mean, it's all fun, but it's funny as well. Other things, in South Korea, there were a lot of things happening or news articles related to China as well. First of all, being that in Jeju Island or Jeju Island, there are casinos. But at a large casino in Jeju Island, apparently, while some players were playing a card game at the casino, three Chinese players noticed that apparently all the cards used in the card game were red cards, and all of a sudden they see like a gray card being handed out by the staff at the casino. And so some Chinese players pointed it out and thought that they were actually, claiming that the game was rigged, basically. And so these few Chinese players were shouting and were like getting angry at the staff at the casino. And then more and more Chinese players chimed in and they caused a big disturbance. Apparently it lasted for over 20 minutes. Police was called in, and they had to basically break up this big fight, and three Chinese players were apprehended. apparently there were like 110 police officers present. So I mean, it just gives to show how big of a fight it was. Oh, another big story in South Korea, but it's been going on for quite a while, for more than a month already. Like starting from the end of August, Korea telecom users in South Korea, in various regions, they found out that they had been charged for things like digital gift cards and transit card top ups without their knowledge. And so basically, they were kind of like trapped or framed or cheated into like, well, actually, people kind of like use their accounts to buy things. How did it happen? Well, investigators they found out that micro base stations were involved. Micro base stations, they are small, like low power cell towers, and in these cell towers, some people, and apparently it turns out to be some Chinese people, these cell towers seem to have been used to carry out like unauthorized payment transactions. Of course, this was like a big scandal, a big thing at the end of August in South Korea. And so a joint public private investigation team was set up involving the government, Korea Telecom, security agencies to figure out how this happened and also to prevent it from occurring again. And then later it was found out that two Chinese national suspects committed the unauthorized micropayment crime. So they have been arrested, they've been transferred for prosecution. However, police is experiencing difficulties in their investigation because apparently these Chinese suspects for now, they used a laptop and a phone and probably other things as well during the crime, but these things have already been like transferred to China before the suspects were arrested. So all the evidence is kind of in China, and I guess it's very hard for the South Korean investigators to find it back again. So yeah. And the third thing, but it's like more positive, I guess, is that from the 1st of October, South Korea allows Chinese tourist groups to come to South Korea for traveling without a visa. And considering that the 1st of October is Chinese National Day, there's quite a lot of Chinese people who finally have time to go on a holiday abroad, but also want to go to South Korea. It's very popular, especially for the young people who want to buy like Korean merch, products, whatever. And so it's like semi-positive news. I guess some people in South Korea may find it to be a nuisance, but anyway. And then a final thing is that South Korea media is also reporting on bear attack victims and Japanese people alerting at having seen bears, especially with the autumn season coming in. A lot of people are they're doing like trips in the mountains and they see bears, and already like 180 bears have been sighted, which is quite a lot compared to previous years. Japanese media also during the summer reported extensively on people being attacked by bears. So people have to be prudent when they're tripping and trekking through the Japanese mountains. I'm just gonna see. Anyway, this is just a first like news in Northeast Asian countries through the lens of other countries, but we'll continue doing this in a regular interval. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe, leave a comment, like, and I'll see you next time. Bye.